Hi there, it's Jen here today on the Scrapbook Pal YouTube channel, and today I have a really quick and easy card just using die cuts, and the die cuts that I'm going to use are from Pinkfresh Studios, and the set is called Artistic Blossoms, and there are 5 dies in this set. I'm also going to be using a stamp set called Heart Smiles, and this also has a coordinating die set, and I will be using that as well for the sentiment on the card today. And one of the cool things about how Pinkfresh Studios packages their dies is there's a little magnet in between there, so you don't have to worry about that sticky stuff on your dies. They stay adhered using that magnet. And I went ahead and I took some hammermill cardstock and I cut each of the dies twice, so there are 2 sets of each flower. And I'm going to start out, I am using Catherine Pooler inks today, and I'm going to start out with all of the stems, and I am coloring all of the stems in the Garden Party color from Catherine Pooler. And then once I have that done, I'm going to color all of the flower pieces. And so the colors that I'm going to use for the flowers are, the first one is Coral Cabana, and I had this bright idea to color 2 different flowers in that color, but what ended up happening was I had 2 of the same color on each side of the card, which was not my intention, but it works out still. So I went ahead for the first color, Coral Cabana, and then I'm going to grab 2 other flowers and I'm going to use the color Tiki Torch, which is kind of a yellow-orange color. And then for my next set of flowers, I'm using the Lemongrass color. And then for my last one, I am using the Aquatini. And once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and adhere all of my flowers. And so basically what I'm doing is I am adhering a set of flowers on the top of this my card panel and a set on the bottom. The card panel is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm just taking my liquid adhesive and arranging those and adhering those, and then I will set my stamp block over them to make sure that they get really well adhered to the card panel. And then to kind of fill in that space in the middle, I'm grabbing a piece of paper from this paper pad. It's called Craft Perfect Gold Hearted is the name of the paper pad. I grabbed this really pretty gold paper. It's kind of got a little bit of a design in it, and I'm using one of the Pinkfresh Studios triangle dies, and I went ahead and cut that out first, and then I'm going to grab the more of the daisy looking flower and cut that out, and then I'm going to get a white piece of cardstock and use that same triangle die, and I'm going to do some partial die cutting. So basically I left the end of the flower hanging over my cutting plates so that that part didn't cut, so I just have this little piece in the center that is movable, so it can move up and down, and you can see the gold flower is placed underneath that. And to keep that gold die cut, that flower die cut in place, I'm going to grab some Scotch tape and put that over the back of that piece so that it does not move around. And then I'll take I'll take some scissors and trim off. There's a little bit of the stem hanging off of this triangle shape, and so I'll go ahead and trim that off. And then I'm going to add some foam to the back of this piece just because the all the die cut flowers on the card panel create a little bit of an uneven texture. It would have been a little more difficult to adhere the triangle flat over those flowers. And so that foam will give it a nice popped up look, as well as cover all of the ends of those stems in the middle. And to make sure that the flower that's partially die cut did not lay flat, I took a small piece of foam and added it just behind that bigger leaf on that flower, just to make sure that it stayed dimensional. And then for the sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and grab the sentiment that says, "Lucky to have a friend like you." And so I'm going to add that to my mini Misty, and I'm going to be doing some gold embossing, so I have prepped the or will prep the cardstock with my anti-static bag, and then I'm going to use some Versamark embossing ink to stamp onto the paper, and I stamped that up several times just to make sure I have a really good impression of the stamp. And then I'm going to use some gold embossing powder to cover that wet ink, and then I will take my heat tool and melt the embossing powder. And then I'm going to go ahead and set that sentiment aside for now. And I'm going to adhere my card panel to kind of the scrap piece of paper that I originally cut the triangle out of, and the panel is going to go right over that empty space and then be put onto a card base, so you're not going to be able to see that empty space, and it kind of uses up some paper without wasting all of it. And so I'll go ahead and just adhere that with some double-sided adhesive, and then I'm going to take my paper trimmer and trim off all of the excess paper, and it just frames it out with a really pretty gold frame. And then to keep on with the gold theme for the card, I took some metallic watercolors in gold, and I'm going to add a little bit of splatter to the card. And then I'm going to go back to the sentiment and grab the coordinating die from the Heart Smiles set, and I will run that through my die cut machine. And then to the back of the sentiment, I'm going to add a little bit of foam as well as a little bit of liquid adhesive, because part of it is the same height as the triangle and part of it is not. And so the foam is going to be behind all the areas that are not attached to the triangle. And then I'm taking some of the Pinkfresh Glacier jewels and adding a few of those, and that's going to finish off my card for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, I would love a thumbs up. Don't forget, all of the products I used today will be listed below from ScrapbookPal, and the design team always has fantastic projects throughout the month, so we would love it if you would go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And that is it for me today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I hope to see you next time.